Hi there, I'm Ben, and I read an article this week entitled ESL Literacy Finding Common Ground and Serving Learners' Needs. It's a broad overview of how to best serve ESL learners who need to develop different types of proficiency and literacy in English, and it talks about a bunch of different issues. This article comes from uh, an institution in Canada that's in charge of determining literacy categories for all schools that teach ESL in that country. So it covers a broad range of issues that I think apply to some of the things that we read in the chapters this week. The first thing it does in the article is tries to classify learners into 6 categories. And the categories give you an indicator of how complex this issue is. So it classifies learners as pre-literate, meaning that they don't know a language that has any written system, so they can't be literate within their native language. Non-literate, their language may have a written system, but they have never learned it. Semi-literate, which is pretty obvious. Non-alphabet literate, which means they have a language that may be written, but it's not a language that has an alphabet. The non-Roman alphabet literate and Roman alphabet literate. So within just those 6 categories, you can imagine in a classroom the practical application of that is huge. Even if you could classify kids into those categories, it begs the question to me of how you would serve all of those different needs for kids. They move on from talking about the classifications that they plan to use in Canada to identify learners who need different types of literacy strategies, to talking about effective teaching strategies for all ESL students. And in their case, I think they're referring mostly to adult ESL students, but a lot of these things could be applied to secondary classroom or any other age of ESL classroom as well. The 3 strategies that they really hit on are a connection to the outside world. They say that there need to be relevant things that the learner is going to encounter in their life. You need to draw things from the students themselves. The example that they gave that was concrete was utility bills and power and electric paperworks, because they would have to work through that in their regular life, and that would be of interest to them. They say that whenever possible, and again, obviously this is a big logistical challenge, to use native language to instruct students for challenging literacy tasks, because it allows them to focus on the task and not on the instructions. And the third one that they say is proven as an effective strategy for learners is to use a variety of types of practice. And this one I think is probably going to be familiar to us. It seems to be common sense that if you want people to be able to speak and write and have good comprehension skills, that you want to practice all those skills. You want to practice how you're going to play. So those are the effective teaching strategies. And then they went on to talk about the types of assessment that need to be used to identify learners, and they hit on again a variety of things. So that they say if you want to identify people and learn about their existing literacy skills, because of all the different classifications, you can't use just one type of assessment to identify them. In a public school setting especially, I see the challenge with that being that assessment is costly and time consuming and difficult to administer, and requires training for teachers and other staff members to even identify students. So even the assessment could be a challenge. The connection that I saw to our text was that it's clear that there's so much that's different and challenging when we have a group of ESL students, that we should probably try to focus on commonalities and helping them make their connections with their own language. One of the things they touch on in the book on page 250 is that people have a universal perception. The reason that languages have a commonality is because we all have similar perceptions about the world around us, and that leads us to express them in similar ways. So any way we can relate to a student's culture and celebrate their culture and help them make a connection to our culture and let them share a little piece of themselves and their family, I think that's a powerful thing for students, and I think that's something that I enjoy as a teacher as well. The lingering question I have is, knowing that people are so different and that there are so many individual challenges and so many things that we need to learn about students to serve them effectively, how do we individualize things? How do we differentiate things and still have some understanding of how much time things take? that's something that I struggle with. Time is always a factor, and I don't think that's going away. So I'd be interested in hearing your strategies about that. Thank you. Bye.